You killed her? All right. What type of knife was it? Do you know?
It was just a big size kitchen knife.
What color was the handle?
Purple.
A chilling confession from a Florida teen who copped to brutally stabbing his own mom.
Were you wearing the same clothes you're wearing now?
Yeah.
There's some red stains there. Is that blood?
I think it is.
Okay.
I got a little bit of blood on my hands.
And your hands too?
Yes.
Despite admitting to the brutal slaying, the teen is still expected to go on trial for first-degree murder. But there's no juvenile court for this case. Instead, he'll be tried as an adult. Let's go back to October 12th of 2023. Derek Rosa was just 13 years old when Hialeah police in Florida say he called them to confess to murdering his mom, Irina Garcia, with a kitchen knife. The gruesome details include Rosa allegedly stabbing his mom more than 40 times throughout her body, even in her neck. Police say before that, he searched online for the best place to stab a person and the best knife for cutting bones. But after he allegedly killed his mom, he called a friend online and sent that same friend 3 pictures, 2 of his mom plus a selfie of himself with what appeared to be blood on his hands. 2 more pictures from a baby monitor in their apartment showed Irina holding her newborn, then Rosa standing over his mom the night she was killed. The knife used in the murder was still in the apartment. Like I mentioned, it was a kitchen knife. It had a purple handle, but a close look at it, it had blood and hair on it. By the time officers arrived, they found Irina dead in her bedroom next to her newborn daughter's crib. When police questioned the then 8th grader, he said his day started like normal. He went to school, then he came home. But what happened later that night was far from normal.
Tell me what happened tonight.
Tonight?
Yeah.
Well, at around like 10, I went to bed.
Okay.
My mom did too.
Is that your regular time?
Like
9?
Yeah.
Okay. You guys explain to me about the apartment. You have your own room?
Yes.
And your mom?
Yes, she has her own room.
She has her own room. And your sister?
She stays in the same room as my mom.
Stays in the same room with your mom? And tonight, who was all there?
Me, my mom, and my sister.
Okay. So you went to sleep around 10?
Yeah.
Okay. And then what?
I woke up.
You killed her? All right. What type of knife was it? Do you know?
It was just a big size kitchen knife.
That big?
Yeah.
What color was the handle?
Purple.
Purple?
Yes.
Okay. Your mom was sleeping?
Yeah, she was sleeping.
Okay. Explain to me. Well, we'll get into that a little later. What did you do after you killed her?
My stepdad he owns 2 guns. He has a Glock 19.
Okay.
And then, I don't know what it's called, another one.
Okay. What color are they?
The Glock 19 is black, and then the other one has a silver slide and then like a dark bluish handle.
I want to give a huge thanks to you, our viewers, and also our amazing sponsors like Upside. Upside is a super cool and free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, and restaurants. Whether it's a nice restaurant or a quick grab-and-go meal, I can use Upside for both. And guess what? I can use Upside to get cash back when I do. And it's really so easy and simple to use and completely free, so why not try it? This is actual real cash back too. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. So here's what you do. You download the Upside app, claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside, you pay as usual using a debit or a credit card, and follow the steps on the app and get paid. You can use Upside at places like Dunkin' Donuts, Cinnabon, Pinkberry, Chipotle, 7-Eleven, Taco Bell, and so many other places. So why not check it out and see if your favorite spot is on the app. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside, or scan the QR code on your screen, use our promo code LCNews, and get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Again, that's promo code LCNews for an extra 25 cents back on your first gallon of gas.
So, what did you do with the guns?
He always has his Glock 19 with him at all times. And since he's a truck driver, he wasn't at home, he was far away.
Okay.
So I went into the closet. I found his book bag because he goes shooting at gun ranges.
Okay.
I grabbed the gun. I put the magazine in the gun. I pulled back to slide, but I didn't want to shoot myself.
Okay.
I intended to shoot myself before, but I couldn't.
Okay. And then what did you do?
I decided to call my friends to tell them what happened, and then I said goodbye to my friends.
You called them before you decided to try to shoot yourself or afterwards?
After.
Okay. How many friends did you call?
Only one.
What's his name?
I don't know his real name. He's an online friend.
He's an online friend?
Yeah.
When you say online friend, what do you mean, from video games?
Yes, from video games. I know him real well.
Okay. How long have you known him?
Since like I was 10, 3 years.
3 years? Have you ever met him?
No, I've seen his face.
You seen his face?
Yeah.
So how did you communicate with him?
My cell phone.
Through your cell phone, so you have his number?
Yes.
And you don't have him stored under a certain name, or you have him stored under a gamer tag?
I have him. I made up a name for him.
You made up a name for him?
Yeah.
What name did you make up for him?
Sweden.
Much of the heavier details of the confession were redacted, including what Rosa allegedly said to his mom when he stabbed her. But Rosa admitted he, his mom, and his newborn baby sister were the only ones in the apartment at the time of his mom's death. His stepfather was off to work. So what would possess the then 13-year-old boy to kill his mom? We almost got an answer to that until he asked for a lawyer.
If you are requesting a lawyer at this point, we can't interview you any further. You understand? We have to stop the interview.
Okay.
Do you want us to stop the interview?
Yes.
Okay. Then this interview will end right now.
Rosa never went home after. Instead, he's been locked up in the Metro West Detention Center. A year after his mom's murder, prosecutors decided Rosa, now 14 years old, will be tried as an adult. Although that chilling confession was caught on camera, Rosa has garnered the support of family and even women who believe he's innocent. A Justice for Derek Rosa group on Facebook believes there's more to the story. In their description, it says, there's a lot not being released yet. Apparently, the stepdad of the boy had another wife in Cuba that he just brought over, and he doesn't want the house to be inspected by investigators. At his latest hearing, a group of women from across the nation, including Illinois, Texas, California, traveled all the way to the Sunshine State to support the 14-year-old. The group reportedly chanted "Free Derek" and wore T-shirts with the same slogan. One woman who traveled from Chicago told NBC6 South Florida, "We want the real person who committed this passion crime to be charged fully. Derek Rosa did not do it. He's a child. I completely believe that he is innocent of all charges. He is a child. He can easily be manipulated by an adult. I believe there was more than one person in that scene. We hear noises in the background of the 911 call. I strongly believe that he's innocent and was manipulated by someone else around that scene." Another woman said, "I'm here because I believe in Derek's innocence. I'd like to see him free. I'd like to see justice for Irina. This child, Derek Rosa, I believe in his innocence. We want to see Derek Rosa free. He's a child. He did not kill his mother." Well, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor Kathleen Bogenschutz is here. And Kathleen, I want to get your take on this whole entire case. You have a 13-year-old boy, or a then 13-year-old boy, accused of killing his mother. He admitted this in interrogation, but yet you still have supporters of the teen saying he's innocent and he was manipulated. What are your kind of thoughts about this whole case, especially as some say he's innocent, but he confessed to it? What are your thoughts?
What struck me most, especially when you watch the video and the interaction among the supporters, I guess, is that they're very well spoken. They're articulating the issues that they see with the case, and they've traveled from out of the area. So I'm not really sure what to make of it. And I have not heard personally these theories as to who may have manipulated him. I do know that he was searching for where do you cut someone to murder them and what's the best knife to dismember a body. To me, that is exhibit A for premeditated murder. He was a juvenile, but we've seen many offices in South Florida, many state attorneys' offices, and I was a member of one of them in Broward County, that often prosecuted juveniles where there was clear evidence of premeditation for murder. So he's quite young, but it's not unheard of.
And speaking of that confession, can it get tossed out in time for trial? You know, he signed that Miranda waiver. He was also 13 years old. Then as an officer asked why he killed his mom, he then asked for a lawyer. But can that interrogation get tossed out? And do you think a jury will actually even see that footage?
It's entirely possible it could get tossed out. Now, I would be very interested to watch the evidentiary portion of that hearing. We do have someone who is underage. It needs to be a knowing and voluntary waiver of his Miranda rights. Certainly his age plays into that. A lot of times juveniles will not even be interviewed without their parents present. Now, granted, his mother was certainly not able to be present at the time, but invoking mid-interview is not necessarily a reason to throw out the entire interview. So it is entirely possible that the judge could find that up until he invoked his right to counsel, that it could be played. I'm more interested in the psychological factors and other things that we could look into that are maybe not contained on the tape, but happened prior to, whether there's any mental health issues, how he was doing in school. A lot of times when you see juveniles testify, even for the prosecution, for example, I was a sex crimes prosecutor for, I think, 8 of the 12 years I was a prosecutor, and you put a child on the stand, there's different versions of children. There's different, like one 8-year-old is not like the next 8-year-old. One 14-year-old is not like the next 14-year-old. And you really need to be careful as to being able to qualify them as a witness. Like I said, I haven't seen the tape, but all of these little kind of like squishy factors where it's a different of degrees, those are all going to have to be taken into consideration by the judge.
And I kind of want to go back to something you mentioned earlier in our discussion. Are you surprised that Rosa was charged with 1, first-degree murder, and 2, that he's being tried as an adult? How does a prosecutor kind of make that type of decision?
So, like I said, South Florida offices of the state attorney's office, I was a member of the Broward state attorney's office for about 9 years, which is just one county north of Miami. And the Miami-Dade state attorney's office. They do have a history of having charged juveniles where it's clear that it has been a first-degree murder charge, and where a first-degree murder charge is appropriate, that those cases will be tried as adults. So he has been, the reason we're using his name, and it's not some unnamed juvenile, is because he has been what is colloquially referred to as direct filed. So he is now being prosecuted in adult court. We understand how old he is, but he is being treated as an adult. A lot of times the politicians in these offices will come forward and say adult crime, adult time. But where you have clear evidence of premeditation, and I really couldn't come up with something that is a better example than Googling, where should I stab someone to kill them? Or how do you dismember a body? Or what knife could I use to dismember a body prior to committing the acts? Because second-degree murder is more like we got into a fight and he ended up dead. Or it's a heat of passion. I caught my significant other in bed with somebody else and I reacted violently. But where there's not that moment to stop and reflect and decide to kill. That being said, teenagers, and in particular teenage boys, for anyone who has ever known one, tend to be incredibly impulsive. And I expect that we're going to have some really, really interesting evidence with respect to the development of the human brain, as it differentiates between males and females. Because an 18-year-old female, her brain is significantly more developed than a male's brain. Male's brain's generally not totally developed until they're about 25. We'll probably hear a lot of evidence about that in this hearing, and it's going to be really interesting if you're like me and you like to geek out to that stuff.
And I'm sure a lot of our viewers do as well, too, yes. Obviously. When the case does go to trial, how do you see a jury reacting to Rosa? Right now he's just 14 years old. He seems to have a lot of support, ironically, from a lot of older women, too, despite, killing his mother, or allegedly killing his mother, I should say. And despite what appears to be overwhelming evidence, do you think this case is as open and shut as it really kind of seems right now?
Well, so these other women that seem to think that someone is manipulating him, that there's something else going on here, I don't know. Only the evidence can show that. His mother was asleep at the time. That certainly cuts against finding that there's some kind of mitigation there. But I think at the end of the day, a jury is going to be loath to convict a child of this age on first-degree murder, absent some real showing that it wasn't just directly before the crime, but that this had been planned for a significant period of time. And this is just my opinion, obviously. This isn't the law. Especially after they hear how undeveloped a 14-year-old or then 13-year-old's brain was at the time of the offense.
And, do you see, obviously, we don't have a crystal ball right now, so we can't see too much into the future, but do you see, because of this case, because of his age, that Derek Rosa could take the stand in his own defense?
Possibly. I think that one of the things that I would expect the defense is taking from these women that are traveling in support of him is this is the demographic of the jury you ought to pick, if you consider that there's these women that are very open to considering that somebody else was involved, to lesser degrees of murder, to manslaughter, to not guilty by reason of insanity if he's completely under the direction or at the behest of someone else. I mean, that's best jury you could pick is older females, it sounds like.
Yeah, and it seems like we'll kind of see where this all kind of heads next when this hearing happens. That's been rescheduled to now Thursday. Kathleen, I want to thank you so much for your insight into this case. Before we sign you off, though, where do you think everything kind of goes from here?
Well, I think that the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to have a bunch of evidentiary hearings. And while he is charged as an adult, being charged as an adult is different than being found to stand trial and being competent as an adult. So I think that the first hurdle is going to be his competence to stand trial. The next hurdle will be whether this was a knowing and voluntary waiver of his Miranda rights. Because certainly if you're the defense attorney, the I killed my mother part of it, that's what you want out. Because if he's explaining it, then he knows what he did, he knows it was wrong, and he's saying it to the cop. It's easier for you as a defense attorney if that's not included in the evidence the state goes forward with.
All right, well, guess we'll wait and see to see whether or not it'll be admitted, whether it'll be tossed, and see how this all continues to play out. Kathleen, again, thank you so much for your time and your insight into this case. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Derek Rosa's hearing was rescheduled to January 16th, so we might soon get a better idea of when he's expected to go on trial. But for now, he remains behind bars in the Metro West Detention Center in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Millner.